Welcome once again to What's Going On. Good morning, everybody. Well, this is a very special day here at Belmont Media Center. We have myself, Dolores Vidal, and Janette Cranshaw, our co-host, as well as two rather stellar guests. One of them, Nathaniel Metyer, is student at Yale University, resident of Belmont, and is planning to be a conductor in addition to also being a trumpet player. He is a very active young man who's done several things already, many of which you will hear about today. This is such a perfect time to have this program because at the Beach Street Center on August 13th, there's going to be a performance which will be conducted by Nathaniel. So you be sure and be there, because that's where you want to be. In addition, we have to my right here Sebastian Beverstam, who is a cellist and a student at the New England Conservatory of Music. He comes from very far away, or he comes all the way from Newton. He and Nathaniel have known each other and collaborated for several years now. So welcome. Here you are.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, I heard you folks last year.
Yeah.
Were you in the orchestra last year?
No,
you weren't
unfortunately I wasn't.
there. Yeah, okay. And there was about 30 there, I think, in the orchestra
I
last
think we
year.
had more. I think we
did?
had about 45.
You did,
Yeah.
45, and it's gone up again for this coming concert at 2 o'clock, 2 p.m. at, the Belmont Senior Center or Beach Street Center. And it's, how many did you say?
We've about 55 players involved with the orchestra this year, and one fantastic soloist.
Yeah. Well, I
So
remember
56.
how super you were last year when you began this project of leading a Belmont youth orchestra. Well, it's not really a youth orchestra, is it?
It's a little older.
Yeah.
It's about a college-aged orchestra. We do have some high school students who come in from Belmont High, Lexington High, some from Newton, basically the surrounding communities. And we have some people who come from farther away. I hosted at my house last year a few students. One came from Vermont, one came from New Jersey, and one came from far away in Massachusetts. So it's we do have some people coming from other places.
How did you know them? Is that because at Yale they were part of a group you formed there?
Well, it's interesting because it's all a network of friends, which is how Sebastian got involved, and how the whole orchestra got involved. Really, I asked a group of my close friends from the Boston Youth Symphony and New England Conservatory Youth Philharmonic. I said, hey, let's do an orchestra. And
Let's do an orchestra.
do you have any friends who might like to be involved? And of course, you have new names and old names floating around. And you've heard of most of the people, but some of them you're not friends with yet, or they're friends of friends. But at the end, you end up knowing everybody. So it's sort of like a musical reunion, a meet and greet, and a party all at once, but it's all around this fantastic music. It's centered around this core of performing and of interacting, which I don't think you can get anywhere else. I mean, we're an age group that's always very involved with the high-paced digital world, but this is an opportunity for us to really interact in a really genuine way, at least once a year.
When you're conducting, you don't have to text them to tell them that now we turn to page 8 or whatever. You actually
Hopefully
interact,
not.
right?
Hopefully not. Yeah, that would be kind of a breakdown of what's
That's
intended.
the whole goal.
Yeah.
But it's really kind of exciting, I think, for people in your age group who are continuing to connect interpersonally in ways that I think a lot of people are stopping doing, and connecting in all these other digital ways, as a matter of fact, and not hearing, collaborating in these other ways.
Exactly.
It must be very exciting.
And as musicians, we're entering a world of communication. Music is all about cues, verbal or nonverbal cues. When somebody's playing a concerto or playing in a chamber ensemble or conducting an orchestra, it's all about eye contact and listening, and
sometimes physical cues.
Yeah.
You know, if I'm going to be on stage with you, we're going to be looking at each other and trying to, coordinate all the adjustments on the fly, basically.
And if you have sort of a solo line or a dominant, section where it's you and the other is just very background, do you have it that he sets the pace a lot more than you do?
It's probably a lot of back and forth.
Back and forth.
I mean, our different roles, have different, different importances, like depending on where we are in the music. So sometimes, the conductor is going to be taking over more and, guiding the situation, and sometimes the soloist does that more and the conductor takes a back seat. It's sort of, you test the waters a little bit, see, it's constantly in flux.
Eye contact.
Yeah.
Who's. And also, I think where you've got the idea of it being a fellowship amongst it or whatever, and you have to be terribly directive to have, 3 rehearsals?
we have only 3 rehearsals. Hopefully that will be enough. We might try to.
Should be plenty.
Could be plenty.
And they already have the music; they can learn their parts.
Yeah, they're going to be able to get a head start on the music, but many of these students have played these pieces before, and it's very difficult music from a coordinating perspective to try to get the parts together. But individually, Dvorak didn't write the most virtuosic parts, except for the cello, but the orchestral parts are not.
We won't dismiss that. Yes, go ahead.
The orchestral parts are very manageable, so it's going to be mostly trying to get the parts to come together, which is always the most exciting and challenging part of rehearsing.
I remember when it was over last year and we were filing out, and a lot of us were going to shake your hand on the way out. Remember that? And there was this man who knew quite a bit about music. You didn't know that, but anyway, he said he certainly thought you ought to be the next, or at some point anyhow, conductor of the Boston Pops.
Wow.
I haven't forgotten that a year
I don't know
later.
if I'm quite ready for that quite yet,
Yeah.
but it was a lot of fun last year. And so we did Beethoven's 7th Symphony and Mozart 29. So those two were unified by the A major, and Coriolan Overture to start it off. So the trajectory of the whole concert was from the tragedy of the Coriolan Overture, which is this very bombastic, tragic overture, all the way to the triumph of the end of the 7th Symphony, which of course is very upbeat. The violins are going crazy. The trumpets are playing this fanfare, and so that was a great kind of first start for this festival. And this year, the program is unified in a different way. It's an all Dvorak program, and Antonín Dvorak is one of the most beloved composers to come out of Middle Europe, Bohemia, what is now the Czech Republic. He actually.
What were his years? What
were his dates? He lived at the end of the 19th century, and he actually came to America.
The New World.
At around the turn of the century, right? The New World, and he wrote a symphony called the New World Symphony, although it's not. 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 Leonard Bernstein talks about it not being recognizably American. Of course, as Americans, we always want to put our stamp on things and say, this is our symphony. And in many ways, but we're not playing the New World, we're playing the 8th Symphony, the one just before that. And it's a very different work than the New World. The New World Symphony has a lot of darker moments. The 8th Symphony doesn't really have that many dark moments. It has nostalgic moments. It has moments of looking back and of savoring a past, an old way of being, the color of a past culture. I was just in Romania and in Germany, and the color of Europe and the vibrancy of culture in these different countries, depending on where you go, it's very remarkable. And I think Dvorak
captured that.
He captured that. He knew civilization was moving towards a more homogenized, more easily connected world. He knew that we were moving towards a place where localization is not necessarily as pronounced.
And yet that was yet to come. Was
Right.
the Russian Revolution and the wall down the half of Europe.
Exactly. So he was speaking from an older place.
Yes.
He was.
I thought that was before.
Yeah.
1917, 18.
So he wrote this 8th Symphony and the Dvorak Cello Concerto. These two pieces are really the hallmark of this style is folk tunes, dance rhythms, color, vibrancy, and this I want to emphasize this element of nostalgia.
And also
Yeah.
now that music is almost more relevant, now that we can all travel to all of these places. My husband and I, as soon as that all came down, because we'd always, my son, when he was a little boy, he climbed up the wall and took a piece of the stone, and I kept it. And all of a sudden, much sooner than I thought, it was in the process of coming down, and I ran to the news, and then I ran and got my stone, and I held it there and cried while it was going on, you know. So it's nostalgia. When you live in that area, we were 30 miles from the Czech border, you know, and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask both of you, actually. I just find it very remarkable to see two young men like you interested in the things that you're interested in, because I just don't live in a world in which there is such enthusiasm over the integration of the old and the new and the concepts of nostalgia. I mean, what are you guys talking about? I mean, how did you get there?
Get where exactly?
To where you are, in terms of identifying this as something you want to do, something that fills you with passion, something that
For your life.
Yeah.
Well, for me personally, music was basically something that was the most important thing to me for as long as I can remember. And that I don't know exactly how that happened. I remember asking my mom for a cello when I was young, and she got me a cello, and then I just stuck with it, and it just grew and grew with me, and always loved it more. So don't know how.
So were you listening to music at home? I mean, how did you know to ask for a cello, for heaven's sake?
There was a cellist at my church, actually. And I don't remember, but my mom told me that I wanted to hold the cello and the bow, and then afterwards, when we had to leave, I was crying and I wanted a cello, and I don't remember that, but I do remember asking my mom for a cello.
That's great.
So.
You never know, do you? And how about you, Nathaniel?
Oh gosh, I mean, it goes way back to the long car rides. We used to go. We have a house in the Blue Ridge Mountains of Virginia.
Ooh.
So it's an 18-hour car ride, depending on how fast you go and if you stop. But we always used to listen to Bach cantatas and Beethoven and Mozart, and so the music was always being played. My older sister still plays violin, and we all there's a rule in my house: you have to take piano before you start other instruments, just to get the solid foundation in the keyboard. And so there's always music playing. And then as I started playing trumpet, got involved with the youth orchestra, met Sebastian, and we started playing big symphonies, Mahler and Strauss, tone poems, and Tchaikovsky. Yeah, and as a adolescent, being able to be participating in this kind of music of this scale, of this dynamic, and of this passion, actually, it becomes a part of you. And pretty soon I got addicted to the music of Gustav Mahler, absolutely obsessed. And so now at the university I'm studying, I'm a German studies major, and my focus is fin de siècle Vienna, the turn of the century, when you have Mahler, Freud, of course Alma Mahler, and you have Klimt and all this art scene that is self-contained, but also ultra connected, and it's a fascinating time.
Yeah, Freud and all of those.
Psychoanalysis
Was coming up, and
exactly.
oh my.
So I guess getting back to your original question, how music, it started to make connections in my life. Through the youth orchestras in Boston, the Boston Youth Symphony and the Youth Philharmonic at NEC, I started to realize that music is not just about your part, it's about the rehearsal, it's about the people you meet at the rehearsal, it's about the conductor, it's about the audience that comes to the concert, and this is a fascinating thing. Everything that goes into producing musical experiences for people. So this is what brings us to the festival here in Belmont. I love almost more the element of getting things together, getting things organized, having things happen, than even conducting. Well, I love conducting. It's great, but trying to get people excited about the music and excited about the event and the performance.
That's wonderful. I'm so glad you guys are there. I really am. I am, and what it offers upcoming kids, too, the opportunity to hear and appreciate. That's my hope, of course, for you guys.
I was just wondering if you could tell a little bit, that I got that from online, from your patch thing before last year, that something, I don't know if it was your wording, and so it's sort of tongue-in-cheek, but you were something about feeling self-imposed need of perfection in your trumpet work, in rehearsing and performing, caused a near catatonic reaction. And so therefore.
Yeah, that was a little humorous, but also very serious. I was very intense about playing the trumpet in high school, and this is everything I thought about was trumpet, and I was practicing a lot, and what happened was I kind of lost the joy of performing for a small amount of time, and it was a very important time for me because it kind of caused me to figure out why I play music and to reevaluate these things, because I was getting more focused on performance and playing perfectly and not making mistakes. I started to
which would really mean an involvement with it being yourself that's performing. That all you've been saying would have been, you could have been operating on your own, just suddenly appearing to do that and so forth.
Right.
Whereas then when you had that experience at Tanglewood, your aha moment when you saw the conductor, then it's, this resonates better. So in terms of social psychology, you wanted a group situation.
Right, exactly, because before it had been sitting in the practice room and honing my craft, and then going to sit in the back of the trumpet section. And I mean, it's great. You get to play amazing things. You get to play very loudly and also very quietly, if you have to. But you don't really get to have the excitement of changing things and helping things weave together and coalescing phrases and making seamless transitions and working with soloists and doing this sort of thing. But yeah, it was a big transition from trumpet to conducting, but one that I'm entirely. I would do that once again, and in fact, if I had known this, I would have started out as a conductor. You know, I just love I love what the process of learning, the learning process of conducting. It's a day-to-day thing. You absorb ideas and inspiration from everything.
You do.
One must. Actually, I think.
So it would seem to me, given that, that the time you spent doing what you did before you came to recognize that what you wanted to do was conduct.
Right.
Was not time lost or
not wasted, not at all. I mean, we played this with Benjamin Zander of the Youth Philharmonic at NEC. We played some of the most exciting concerts, life-changing concerts, really. We went to Venezuela, and we went to Brazil and China, and it was an experience that showed us not only the works of the Romantic composers, but it showed us the world in a new way. We played alongside members of the Venezuelan Youth Orchestra, the Simón Bolívar Youth Orchestra. We saw what they were doing down there.
Great orchestra.
Which is a good orchestra, that's
Great
what
orchestra.
I've heard, yeah.
It's maybe the greatest youth orchestra in the world. It's in Venezuela. What did we play with them? We played...
Beethoven. Oh no, they performed Beethoven Fifth for us.
Yeah.
We performed for each other, but we played something alongside them, right?
We played Tchaikovsky, Romeo and Juliet, I think, alongside them.
Yeah.
How old were you when you were doing
How old are you?
some of these travels, China and Venezuela?
16.
Yeah, I think I was 14.
That's right. I'm thinking it must be because I've had it all full of what you've been doing the last 4 or 5 years. So this must have gone back before that.
What a wasted youth.
But I remember there was this one long bus ride that we took across Venezuela. A bridge had washed out
Whoops.
during a big rainstorm. And we ended up taking a 15-hour bus ride across the country. And we were like, when are we going to get there? Finally, we got there. And we were playing the Rite of Spring. And I remember it was a nighttime concert because we were actually a little behind schedule. So the concert got pushed back, and we played Rite of Spring at around like 10 or 11 at night.
Oh, my.
Which is one of the most...
It was your Rite of Spring because of all the rain. That's right. You couldn't get there faster.
It was so exciting, though, and oh my gosh, such good memories from that trip.
Now, how did you hear about these things to go to, or be part of? What was that through?
Well, New England Conservatory has a preparatory division on the weekend, and I mean, it's pretty well known. I think. Boston area, NEC. I mean, do you remember how you heard about it? I mean, my mom definitely got me involved on the weekend. But do you remember?
It's a real institution in Boston.
Yeah.
The New England Conservatory, and especially these orchestras. And I heard of Ben Zander, and he's one of the leading conductors around the area and around the world. He gives big speeches about the future of classical music. And I actually just finished studying with him in London.
Oh, that's nice.
Wow. And so to play in an orchestra with such an inspiring conductor and with such talented students, this is a great opportunity. But needless to say, there's another youth orchestra across town. They're kind of almost two rival groups, but not really. There are a lot of people who do both. I did both. The other group is called the Boston Youth Symphony. It used to be called GYBSO, the Greater Boston Youth Symphony Orchestras. And so our orchestra this summer is drawn from the NEC prep program, kids who did that, alumni, but also current members. And the other place we're drawing from is the Boston Youth Symphony. So it's a unified ensemble of many different people.
That's wonderful. Well,
Yeah.
unfortunately, we have come to the end of our program. I could go on for another hour.
Oh, yes.
And it's really quite invigorating, I think, to have two wonderful young guys here, full of life and full of wonderful experiences already. And moving forward, don't forget to attend the concert at the Senior Center on August
13th and
14th.
2 p.m. Come to both. Come to one, come to both.
Yes. So, thank you very much for being with us today.
Thank you
very
so
much.
I really appreciate it.